Hi, I'm Chris Jarvis. I'm a conservation specialist with the John Marshall Soil and Water Conservation District, which serves Fauquier County. So the districts in the north central Piedmont, some of them are single county districts like ours. Fauquier, Prince William would be another one, Loudoun County, and then the Culpeper County does serve 5 different counties. And each one has a slightly different flavor because they are political subdivisions of the state of Virginia with elected boards. So those folks may have certain priorities, but the vast majority of the funding that we sort of refer to as the Virginia Agricultural Cost Share Program, that does come from the state. Soil and water districts do focus, as their name would imply, on water quality and soil resource concerns.
My name is Casey Imes. I work for the Natural Resource Conservation Service, most commonly known as NRCS. So I'm the local soil conservationist in the Warrenton Service Center, and we service Fauquier, Prince William, Loudoun, Fairfax, and Alexandria.
I should mention that once we've sort of figured out a conservation plan, we try to match the landowners' needs with a program if we do have one that could help. The practices that we have fall into 2 main divisions. There are their agronomic practices, things like cover crops, so where the terrain is suitable for tillage, and of course we definitely encourage no-till drills or minimal tilling. There are practices for crop fields where those fit, and then when the Piedmont starts to roll and gets closer to the mountainous areas, for the most part the agricultural reflects that terrain, and we have grazing animals. So with beef cattle being the most predominant type, there are still a few dairies, and then definitely in Loudoun and Fauquier we have horse farms. So there's 2 largest horse herds in Virginia are in our 2 counties. So we do have some programs that would fit horse farms as well.
If you're not what most people would think of as a traditional farm, if you just have some land and maybe your goals are to enhance and just create a better wildlife, we can help with tree plantings, maybe do some pollinator habitat to convert the non-native into native grasses or wildflowers. There's also easements and protection of your land if you have wetlands or just other ag land that you want to protect for the future. So we cover different programs from technical assistance. We can come out and help any landowners, producers with any natural resources they have on their property that they want to enhance or protect. We also offer financial programs through EQIP, which is the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, the Conservation Stewardship Program, which is CSP. We also have easements and other volunteer opportunities. So we do a lot of help with pasture land, cropland, wildlife, as well as easements and protecting other resources. Some of the big practices that we mostly focus with are pasture land, like here on this farm we help with fencing out buffers and streams, and then implementing other alternative water systems as well as rotational grazing, and then alternatively to help improve the buffers for wildlife. We also work with cropland for cover crops, so we do no-till nutrient management on some of the smaller vegetable operations and things like that, or flowers. We have offered high tunnels and smaller cover crop payments. We also have stuff for forestry and forest management, as well as I mentioned wildlife. We can do things with pollinators and just wildlife in general and creating those better habitats.
Right now with the state program, the more you're willing to give up in a buffer, so the wider the buffer, the point from the top of the stream to your fence, the larger the percentage of cost share you receive. In addition to that, the longer term you're willing to commit to keeping it maintained, the higher the percentage. So you'll want to check in with your district about that. With stream crossings, we primarily do what's called an open ford crossing, which if you were going to look at it in profile, it's like driving, if you can imagine driving across the stream, coming down one bank, through the stream, and then up the other side if you were in a 4-wheel drive or a tractor. And that roadway, I'll call it, is treated with layers of stone and with geotextile fabric. We have requirements about how the slope of the ramps are left, and none of us are able to disturb a waterway in Virginia, so without special permits. So sometimes we might move a rock or two to make sure that the stream part is more stable, but usually we try to solve those problems by picking a good spot to begin with. And so we look for a relatively straight run and good firm substrate, rock, and so forth in the stream itself. We use them as a way to enhance your rotational grazing program. So the idea being that likely there would be a pipeline crossing somewhere near there as well. We plan to do that here, and then we would put a trough on the other side, so that that area on the other side of the stream becomes a paddock in the rotational grazing system. If we were not in a situation where we had power, then like on some very large isolated farms, that hardened crossing area could be used for watering as well. It's sort of a last resort for us, but it's definitely done, especially in the northern part of Fauquier on some of the large farms that don't have power anywhere near those fields.
My name is Jessica Woodcock, and I am Longshot Agriculture, and we build all types of fence. We do water lines, stream crossings, heavy use areas, troughs, residential fence, agriculture. The most important thing is to have all your footage amounts, to have chosen the type of fence that you want to put up in the areas, whether it's the same all the way around or 5 different types. And when you contact the contractor or contractors, give them all that information and make sure all of the bids that you are looking at are comparing apples to apples. And this is all the way down to how far apart your posts are spaced, the layout, the gates, gate placements, the number of gates. That way, when you get all your bids from your contractors, you're comparing numbers on the same exact thing, and somebody's not putting up the minimum 2 hot wires that's required and somebody else is putting up 7. There's going to be a big price difference. Also, your contractor should be upfront about scheduling. Currently, I am out until April or May, and this is October.
There's lots of folks that can help you with a plan. We do have a pasture management practice for those who have already fenced all their surface water. It's called an SL10. And we work in consultation with our extension agent, there's an extension agent on every soil and water board, or most of them in the state. And they kind of serve as advisors to us in this practice. But there's lots of help out there for folks who would like to develop a grazing plan. The state is also offering buffer payments right now. So we would calculate the acreage inside from the fence, from one stream fence to the other.
If you're not what most people would think of as a traditional farm, if you just have some land and maybe your goals are to enhance and just create a better wildlife, we can help with tree plantings, maybe do some pollinator habitat to convert the non-native into native grasses or wildflowers. There's also easements and protection of your land if you have wetlands or just other ag land that you want to protect for the future.
Pines that are native to Virginia, the cost share is a little bit less per acre than the native hardwoods, because we definitely recommend protecting those from deer, usually through the use of tubes, the planting tubes. And that is a per acre payment. I have to say the new, it's called an FR3, the riparian area planting is very, there's a high level of support right now. It's 95% cost share plus an incentive payment.
So you don't actually have to physically be the operator or the landowner. It can be one or the other that can apply for the programs on the property. So if you own it, you can install the practices yourselves, or if you're the operator and want to install it, you can install it, but you would have to have a long-term lease agreement. So vice versa, if you're the landowner and your tenant wants to install something, if you're a year-by-year lease, they wouldn't be able to install it. So you need to get some longer-term lease agreements with them so that they can implement those practices. Basically, anyone is qualified as long as you have records up to date with the Farm Service Agency and you're operating a land and have control of that land for the life of the practice that you want to apply for. So some things that's a misconception is that because we are a federal agency, we enforce things or require certain things to be done on your land. The one nice thing about our agency and our program is everything's voluntary. So if you want to come work with us, you can. If you want to implement programs, we can offer those to you, but we don't enforce or require anything. It's all voluntary to work with us, and we're also a free service to come out and help you. So maybe you're not looking for financial assistance, you just want some technical advice, and we're here to help you.
With our board, when we have adequate funding, I will say most applications that have, gone through the checklist and passed the staff's test, so to speak, will be approved by our board. But they do ask questions if it seems like it might be too big a practice for a small farm or something along those lines. And so there are certain things that the landowner, it's actually to their advantage to do with the federal program. And traditionally, and then some things that the state is definitely the best way to go. And really, you would just want to talk to your NRCS and district staff about that. One advantage to the federal program for some folks, and it has to do with the obstacles to doing these types of practices in the first place, would be you can get your cost share. Cost shares are reimbursement payments, and on the federal side, when your fencing is done, you can get reimbursed, and then when your new water system, because of course if you deny them access to the stream, they have to drink somewhere. So, and then when your alternative water system is in, you can get reimbursed. But again, you have to weigh that all out with the caps, because you still might do better working with the state and just waiting till you're all done. So every situation's different, and the staff should be able to help you sort that out and pick something that's best for you.